Good morning, everyone. I just love this crowd. One of the things that we love is getting everybody back in person. We spent 2021 online. We spent 2022 trying to get you guys back here. So it's 2023 and super, you guys are here. One of the reasons why I'm excited about it is because there's a lot of networking that needs to happen. There's a lot of people here that you guys need to meet that that you probably will need in the future or the near future. So we're going to talk about that. Today it's about personal brand, not your corporate brand and not your business brand, but personal brand. We want to talk about that because it's important, to grow your business to also have a great personal brand. So my colleagues over here are super experienced, more than me sometimes. So Brooke is an owner of Vines Brookshire, and she is a ad agency expert. She works with a lot of small, medium to large size agencies. So she is a marketing consultant. So she knows what she's talking about. And Debbie, my friend Debbie, my longtime friend Debbie, is deep into marketing. She's been doing bank marketing for a long time. She's also an entrepreneur. She owned, I don't know if you guys remember Turtle Creek? Turtle Cove, right? It is a spa over at Mountain Harbor. Who wants to start? I think, let me see if I can, if I know, oh, here we go. I don't, I think you're starting.
Do I need to use this?
Oh, yeah, just like this. By the way, we want this to be conversational. So if you want to speak up or raise your hand or whatever, make sure that you do that. One of the things, if you want to get coffee, don't block the camera because I don't want you guys to be blocking us.
Okay. Well, it's fun to be here and talk about branding and personal brand. So I'd like to ask a question first. We did want participation. Let me see a show of hands for how many of you feel like you have a personal brand that you're happy with. Okay, good. We can learn from you then today. So let's talk about what a personal brand is. Mimi mentioned that it's not your corporate brand. Well, it is separate. It's personal. It definitely needs to complement your company brand or your service or product that you offer, but it is a personal thing. It's who you are. It's what you want people to believe about you. And let's hope you're not George Santos, right?
Yeah.
Because he has a personal brand and it's not very believable, which is one of the things that we want to talk about. You want to click there? Sure. Okay, so the first thing is it needs to be intentional and focused. You can't be all things to all people. And it's good to really think about the brand and try to define it in terms of who you want your audience to be and who you are. And you need to not take a chance that everybody's going to understand what your brand is just because you do. It has to be well defined. It has to be well defined, and you don't want to be a bug splattered on a windshield, okay? Which is what some people are. It's like, who are they? Because they're over here doing this or they're over here saying that. And so all of that is very important to be intentional and be focused. And then you need to be authentic and believable. And I've already mentioned a good example of a bad example of believability. I think you could probably put most of the politicians in that category, but I'm not going to pick on them today. But you want to be authentic. It needs to be who you really are, and even against criticism, perhaps, or people that aren't going to like you. Like I said, you can't be all things to all people. You need to be authentic. And we're going to show you some examples later today of some people who built their brand around their authenticity, even in the face of adversity, criticism, all hurtful things. So that is important. You need to feel passionate about your brand, and you want it to be something that can instill loyalty among your audience and, generate some excitement, perhaps. I mean, depends on what you're doing, but you need to think about all of those things. You need to be authentic and believable. You need to be unique and differentiating. What makes you different? You have a lot of competition out there. That's probably why some of you are here. How can I break out? I sell insurance products, so how can I be different? Because there's a lot of people that sell insurance products. Our brains are wired to remember things that are different. So if you just say the same things and act the same way and do all the same things that everybody else in your space does, you're not going to stand out. So make it personal, stand out, don't be afraid to be different, but again, clearly define who you are. And then finally, the most important thing is you need to ask this question: who am I? What do I do? And why does it matter? And it needs to matter to you, but it also needs to matter to the individuals or the companies that you're trying to talk to. If it's not important to them and it's not relevant, then it doesn't matter. So why does it matter? This isn't something that's going to be real easy to do. I mean, you guys need to sit down and make some notes and ask yourself these questions and make sure that your brand reflects these things: intentional and focused, authentic, believable, unique, differentiating, and answer the question, why does it matter? And I want to bring up, and I think Brooke may talk about this later, part of where you can get there is, what is your story? Do you have a story? Because when you think about people that have unique and personal brands, they have a story that people can relate to. It might be rags to riches. It could be overcoming adversity. It could be their family heritage or history. It could be a lot of things that you could tie into what your personal brand is that will help people relate to you. So I think that's pretty good. Who's going to talk now? Anybody have any questions? You know what your homework assignment is? Okay.
Fine.
Brooke, you want to talk, or is that still me?
Yeah,
Or
no, I can take this one.
uh-huh.
How do you create and promote your personal brand? You know, you already have one, is the thing, whether you own it or not. And so when we talk about, when we talk about, you have to hold it. This doesn't make me louder. It's just for the camera, so it's hard. But you know, when we talk about having your personal brand, we're just talking about owning your own narrative, and it's just putting a little mindfulness behind the story that you're telling about yourself to different target audiences. For example, there's a certain way you present yourself to certain different kinds of people, but it's all still you. But I don't go tell my preacher about the Valentine's Day nightie that I bought for my husband, right? I mean, like, we all have a version of ourselves that goes to the different audiences. And when we talk about branding in advertising, that's all about what other people say about your brand. But personal branding, you still have autonomy. It's still you, and it's about connecting with yourself, and it's about just being in control of your own narrative. So we do say, have some style. Don't be afraid to stand out. And Debbie touched on this. But you know, my favorite example of that is Susan Altrui from the zoo. She's the executive director of the zoo, always wears animal print. If you look at her, she's either carrying a snakeskin purse, she's got on some leopard boots. It's little things like that that just add a touch of flair, but it's not super over the top. Tell a story that is interesting is really important and relevant to what you're doing. Part of my story and part of what we do for brands is the creation story. We are born into community. Storytelling is a big part of that. So consider your origin story. What inspired you to start your business? You know, when I started my business, I was working 50 hours a week at an agency, and I knew I wanted to have a family, and I knew that I was going to need to have flexibility, and then it wasn't going to be there, and I wasn't going to be able to go to my dentist appointment at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so part of the reason why I became an entrepreneur was so that I would have personal freedom. What is your story? What inspired you to go out and do what you did? And then tell that story over and over. You also need a really short version of it. You're going to go to conferences where you surround yourselves with people that you want to be like, and they need to understand quick whether or not they're going to talk to you. Because I was just at a conference and the guy was like, let me guess, are you from Georgia? And he meant it in a really condescending way, you know? And I had to be on and tell him what my elevator speech was in that moment. So you have to know that story, and you have to know the short version of it. I think that networking effectively and the relationship building is the most important part of this. Whether you decide to build your personal brand on social media and take advantage of the digital opportunities or not, there's nothing more powerful than sitting down at lunch with people. So it's totally okay to reach out to people you admire, take them to lunch, ask them questions, put yourself out there. But the person-to-person relationship building, and this is something that the younger kids get a lot of criticism for not doing, you cannot replace what happens when you're in the room with another person. So you want to make sure your personal brand complements your company product brand or vice versa. That means like if you're in banking, you're going to present yourself a certain way versus if you're in advertising. You know, I can get away with being a little more edgy and out there and fun, but if you're in banking, you want to look like you're responsible with money. I mean, if you work at a coffee shop, you can get away with a whole lot of piercings and tattoos, but if you are, you know what I mean? There's certain people that you want to present themselves a certain way. You want your hairdresser to have a good haircut, you know? So consider when we're talking about your audiences and your cohorts, what they're like and how you might fit into that. That does not limit you being creative and having style. So how do you make it sustainable? I think that what we meant by that, continuously monitoring and evaluating. When we're monitoring and evaluating social media for a client, we are managing and measuring engagement. So when you talk about being a part of a conversation in a community that's not in person, that's online, you can throw a post out there that might get 1 or 2 likes, 1 or 2 shares. You can throw a post out there that goes a little bit viral. Pay attention to what that is. One of the things we really encourage people to do, especially on social media, is be a part of bigger conversations. So for example, you might be on there talking about business, banking, whatever it is that you do, but it's okay to go on there with a hashtag about, for example, I had a friend whose post, she got 5,000 extra followers on TikTok talking about the grief of her mom and how she was at the grocery store and started crying because she was buying spinach that she never eats that goes bad in her fridge. And a song came on that her mom liked, and her mom had died that year. And she had a whole conversation in the community about just what that felt like to have tears come up in the grocery store. And it wasn't at all about her brand or her business. And so things like that, when I think about sustainability, I think about you're human outside of whatever your business objective is from your personal brand.
I think one of the things that I wanted to add to this one is, get yourself a mentor, because the mentor will give you some really honest feedback. One of your best friends. Just make sure that they tell you honestly what's going on out there when you're putting stuff out there. Now, I know my best friends will say, you put something out there in social media, inappropriate, you need to take it down, because it's always so important, especially now in the digital world, it just stays out there. So you need to have somebody that's watching out for you and get a mentor. Again, I'm pitching the mentorship program here, but.
Accomplish that through going to conferences, putting myself out there as this apologetic person from Arkansas, talking to people that were leaders in the industry. And I ended up coming back with some of the most wonderful mentors that I never even imagined I would have, because I walked up to them. I walked up to a lady who owned the Oaks at Ojai, who had written books and was famous. And I said, "Hi, I'm Debbie Barnes from Arkansas, and I'm going to open a spot. Do you ever come and do whatever?" She said, "Sure." And she said, "I have been successful in my career, and the thing that I can do now that I want to do is to give back to the industry that's been so good to me and help young people." And those people are out there, and don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. And you will make lifetime connections that will help you in your business.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. The last point that we make is everybody screws up sooner or later. And I want to talk about that for just a minute, not just screwing up, which does happen, but the fear of screwing up. And one of the most limiting beliefs, I think, when you start to do your personal brand is worrying about what other people think about you. There's always going to be haters and people that criticize you from your past. And for those of you entrepreneurs in the room, I'm sure all of y'all had that experience where somebody tried to talk you out of this great risk of starting a business. Like it's safer to have a job, that they can just fire you anywhere. I mean, seriously, that's one of the biggest lies perpetuated in America, that it's safer to go get a job. But I mean, I think that everybody has, especially starting out, and I think women suffer with this more than men, a little bit of imposter syndrome. There's that person from high school that you think you don't want them to say, who does she think she is for doing that? The quicker you can beat that into submission, the better. You are going to screw up. There are going to be people that criticize you. That's part of it. And really, if you can just turn that around into enough anger to use as rocket fuel, then it'll serve you. But you have to get over that the best that you can.
And it can become part of your story, because when you try to resolve an issue, when you screwed up or make it right, people love to talk about the bad stuff. They're going to talk about, you know what? Debbie screwed up, but then this is what she did. And they can become a wonderful word of mouth and part of your story. So don't be afraid to screw up. You got it. Everybody screws up.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings, and I always screw it up in a presentation, but perfect is the enemy of done.
Yep.
You know, we have to get so much information out there all the time. Just like think about how hard it is. It's like giving birth to get your website done. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can change this stuff in a second. That covers it.
Can I add something to
Yeah.
what y'all are talking about? So sustainable and like going to lunches, 100% agree with that. And one of the things that I did early in my career was do 3 to 5 coffee meetings per week. Because talk about sustainable and the cost of lunch, that can become pretty
Oh, yeah.
intimidating. And if you don't see results from that, then you start to get more desperate and need results from that because the cost is that high. So for me, it was, let's go to let's go to a local coffee shop for an hour, sit down, I've got their attention. Then I can do 2 of those a day. And then I can do a lunch on top of that with a higher priority.
What's your business?
I help people manage money.
Ah,
During their lunch.
yeah,
That's definitely a relationship.
very personal.
Yeah, this part is Debbie's favorite. Learn from the pros and cons. Debbie?
Sometimes when you're thinking about your personal image, is to look at other people, famous people, perhaps celebrities and things, and think about how you define them, you know, or how they define themselves. And so we want to just open it up to everybody. There was actually an article in CNN about Dolly Parton just yesterday. I don't know if y'all saw it, about that she's a beloved celebrity. And pretty wide ranging, but what would be your how would you define Dolly? What's her personal brand? Somebody want to speak up? She's probably
Everybody like Dolly?
sophisticated, fun. What else? Bubbly, edgy,
Yeah.
empowering. Yes. She's a feminist, actually. And, you know, she's wears wigs, always does that wig, you know, because it's part of how you dress, how you act, how you talk, how you look is part of your image. In addition to what you say, what else? She's a giver. Is she authentic? Everybody would say Dolly Parton is authentic, and that's very, very important. She's who she is.
She's authentic in a fake way.
Yeah.
She's real about it.
She owns it.
It's really paradigm.
You know,
She said she can pull it off.
it's an interesting thing that you just said. Exactly. Well, you know, when she first came out, I mean, people are making fun of her, right? Because of the way she looked, the big boobs and all that stuff. But she kept to her authenticity. She was who she was, and she never varied from that, and that becomes her personal brand. But she also stood for something meaningful.
How about the style here on the right? Anybody want to give us an adjective about his personal brand?
Bold.
Bold, okay.
Ah.
Egotistical.
Crazy, maybe? Elon Musk?
He's he's intelligent. Polarizing, yeah. Would you say his brand is positive or negative? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he started out, it was very positive, but he's done some things lately, like with Twitter and things that have created a different
Business problem.
Yeah.
business problem for him. So, okay, let's look at.
Well, I just want to point that out because we talked about Dolly, how she started up, people making fun of her, and she became something very inspirational. Elon Musk started very positive. So be careful too when it comes to what you're doing and what you're saying out there, because your brand could get to become negative pretty quickly, and it's hard to overcome that.
Well, and one more point about that, I think the difference there too is intention. If
Yeah.
you consider before you make a post what you're trying to accomplish out of it,
Very
how you want to
good.
make people feel, I don't think Elon Musk was really considering what his comments were going to do when he crashed crypto. I don't think he really considered how egotistical he was going to look when he went in and fired everybody at Twitter. And it's causing him some business problems. But if he'd really thought through, what am I trying to accomplish in the world with this, and given it a little intention, it probably would have turned out differently. He started out on top of the world with Tesla.
Good point. How about Oprah? Legendary? Yes. Inspiring. She has a story, doesn't she? Anybody else? Truthful? Relatable? Compassionate? All positive attributes.
So Oprah's a great example of a great personal brand. Everybody in this room will buy anything Oprah says, right?
Because we know it's good.
Because we know it's good. Somehow or another, we just trust it. It's going to be good.
And so is she authentic? Yeah. She puts it out there sometimes painfully. So I think authentic is really a big deal when you're looking at your personal brand. Am I being authentic? Okay, Lizzo.
Woohoo!
Ah. Bold, confident. Mm-hmm. She's not afraid to stand out, is she?
No, and she makes the flute look cool.
Yeah. So back to what Brooke was saying about the haters. There were haters out there. She's big. What's all that? What she's doing.
Dresses sexy.
Yeah. But after she got out there, started performing, and she's super talented. Look at what Lululemon started doing. Showing women, plus women, and showing that off. And then every brand that you're seeing when it comes to clothing are now showing that off, because that is real. It's not the fake, models. It's real. And that's what made us. I mean, yes, she's talented, but that's what made us love Lizzo, because
And
she's real.
The body positivity movement started with her. Really, I mean, she's the spokesmodel for it, and she's beautiful. We all think so.
Okay. All of them share one thing. They're all unapologetic with themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So build your audience. So anybody here, I'm going to show my age, know what a Rolodex is? Oh, okay. So for the young ones, it's building your contact on your cell phone or your or your computer. So build your Rolodex. So what I want to do for just a second is we're going to do church here. Would you just kind of introduce yourselves for the people on your left and people on your right? Go ahead. Let's do that. Come on. Let's do it. Okay. That right there is super important, because when you get up here, when you get up and start doing the networking, you need to start building your network and building your audience, which means you better go home with 2 or 3 business cards from today. Got it? You got to get somebody's business card. You got to introduce yourself. You already have. So be comfortable. Get a business card and call them and ask them to go to lunch or coffee, right? You've got to build your audience. The way that you're going to build your personal brand and the way that you're going to build your business is to build your audience. So I just gave you a very comfortable way to doing that. So when we get up after this presentation, make sure that you get up at least three business cards. Okay, social platform. Now, I'm gonna get Brooke to start this, and I'm gonna end it.
It doesn't matter the platform. There's always a new platform. Google, though, everything that you do that's picked up in an article, any thought leadership, any pictures that you take at events, all that's going to stay on Google. You can't get anything off of Google. So you've got to be really careful how you act out in the world and make sure it's consistent with your brand, because, you Google people. Like when you're dating, you Google them first and you make sure they don't have a criminal history, that they don't have anything embarrassing out there from college. So it doesn't matter what social platforms we choose to. The ones we're on today will be different 2 years from now.
Yeah.
But Google is forever. Try to get something down.
So the thing about that is, always Google yourself, right? And make sure what's out there is something good for you and your business. If there's nothing out there, it's kind of like, when you get, for the single people in the room, when you get introduced to somebody, what do you do when you get home? First thing you do, or you go to the bathroom, excuse me just a minute, my blind date, I'll be right back. What do? Right? You Google this person, right? And if they don't have any kind of a presence out there, you should be worried. If they have a negative presence out there, you should be worried. Same with your personal brand. But one thing that you have to do is create content for yourself. If you can write, if short stories, if you can write little blogs for your, website or for your social media. I mean, those little things that you do is important. And that's when you start building content and building a personal brand for yourself, right? Stories that you tell, put it in writing, and if you have a friend that is a good writer, I'm not a great writer, I'm an okay writer, but I was surrounded with people who are great writers. So, but building content, make sure that you're out there building words, not just images, but you got to build some words, you got to put it out there because people are always searching for you. That's the first thing they do. So, and then to get yourself out there. So, I'm the best at figuring out where people are going to be out and about. And, the whole thing about see and be seen, be serious about it. I'm super serious about it. Because, again, you have to meet the right people. You have to be seen and be seen. You got to get your photograph and put it on social media with friends and family members. Somebody here, let me see. Somebody here said, I want your life. That's because I just got back from a weekend with in a farm with my friends that have animals, alpacas and goats and all that stuff, Or I'm eating, all this wonderful food over at Constante, right? So people are like, you got to get out there. You got to get yourself in the right places. Again, when you get there, don't be shy. Introduce yourselves. You get to a restaurant and it's Valentine's Day and it's, I always, my partner Marianne hates this, but we have a 7 o'clock reservation. I always want to be there at 6:15, 6:30 because I want to sit at the bar, you see? And now I'm not sitting at the bar I get a drink, yeah. But I sit at the bar so I can introduce myself to some people, right? People always want to talk to other people, especially when the first question is, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? God, they will spend 30 minutes and you can't get away. I'm reservation at 7. Thank you so much. Do you have a business card? Right? So you got to get yourself out there because I think it's super important. If you can volunteer for some of the very high-profile nonprofit organizations, some of the things that you care about, like Alzheimer's, I care about that. My mother died of Alzheimer's. Breast cancer, anything that touches your heart, volunteer. Make yourself be out there and be and get yourself known and meet a lot of people. I know you want to say something.
Well, I mean, that's how I describe my whole job is I just have to show up at the thing. If I show up at the thing, something will happen. And it really is that simple. What's the thing? Put yourself in the room full of the people that you need to know. Something will happen every time.
It will. And I want to just say sometimes the best
Debbie.
Sometimes the best opportunities that I had, especially when I had created my spa, was getting myself out there for sure, but you never know when you're talking to someone where that's going to lead. They may not be the person, but then they're going to say, oh, you need to meet. So, I mean, it can lead to other things. So the fact that Mimi asked y'all to do this little exercise, you just never know when you sit down and you talk to some of these people that you call for lunch, what you're going to uncover together and what kind of things you have in common, problems and good things, or you just never know. So you need to take advantage of that. And I think Mimi said, don't be shy. Do not be shy.
And don't wait until you feel like going. One of the things we were talking about at dinner last night is I almost never want to go to the thing anymore. Since the pandemic, I love my Netflix. I want to sit there in my pajamas. I'm always glad when I went, but don't wait until you feel like it. I frequently don't feel like it.
And lastly, now I talk about like introducing yourselves, being seen and be seen. The last thing is make sure that you have lasting relationships, right? When you ask somebody for a cup of coffee, you do need to care about, you know, who they are and what they have to, you know, what some of the things that they love and, you know, not necessarily what they can do for you, but what you can do for them as well. I have these friends of mine here. I mean, Debbie was a client of mine years ago, and we have retained our friendships for, you know, for this long a time. Brooke was just a competitor, actually, you know, and we have had this lifelong friendships. So it's important that when you do meet people, that you are all the things that we've talked about, and then care about them, care about what they're selling. They're going to care about what you're selling, and, you know, build some lifelong relationships. Because when you get to a point, you know, and you are struggling, or that you've got something to sell or something new, you know, the first people you call are the people that are in that business and that can help you. So I think that's all. Oh, last one. You got to get up here. You got to love to do public speaking. You got to love it, because you have to present yourself and, you know, and be invited to speak. That's another way that you can meet people and build that brand in front of a lot of people. So be comfortable. Start with just, you know, getting in front of the mirror, or, you know, come over here and we'll help you, you know, but you have to love to do public speaking. You just have to. And I think we're out of time. So,
Anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions?
I was just curious how you decide, you talked a lot about stories and narratives, like, how do you choose whether to focus on things you have done, things you're doing, direction you're going? Like, there's like this future or present or past thing on where you can really shine your light and really focus and tell that story. And I just don't know if that varies from person to person, or whether you guys have a recommendation on how to focus, what part of your career.
I think it depends on who you're talking to and
Yeah.
what you're doing. I mean, if you're at a business conference, they don't care where you came from. They care what you can do for them right
Yeah.
now.
it depends on your audience, right? So always kind of feel like, you know, what is it that they want to talk about, or what is it that you're trying to accomplish when you're talking to them. But it depends on the audience, right? Like Brooke said, if you're in a conference, you're like, yeah, okay, so I don't care where you're from.
Don't need your life story.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared with all of it. That's what we're telling you.
Mhm.
All right, so keep going.
I wonder about, like I did the lady that was saying and stuff, and I have a wood treatment business inside other people's homes, and so I want to look professional, but also I'm like climbing a ladder and I'm carrying a bunch of stuff, and a lot of times it's a new house and there's mud everywhere. So I also want to be old, and so I'm like, I don't want to fall and break up the hip. And so I also want to be somewhat casual and professional, so I thought about like, how do I get a brand in my look that I wear all the time, that looks good here, but also looks good at a client's house, but also if I run in and do massage, it looks okay too. I mean, you know, like, so would you recommend the stylist and just say, this is my style, this is my style, like, the Steve Jobs black turtleneck, this is what I
I've been under the opinion for a while now that if you spend enough on athleisure wear, it's appropriate anywhere. Have you ever seen how much they charge Lululemon? And I think the pandemic made it okay. I had a girl show up for a job interview in Lululemon leggings recently. A young girl, social media, don't do that. But I mean, for the kind of business that you do, if it looks nice and put together, it's okay if it's leggings and a pair of boots.
But I mean, I think I'm asking like, I want to get like a personal style that I just wear all the time.
Yeah,
Is that, would you say that, or are you encouraging that? Or
Yeah.
are you saying-
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, like I read the Elizabeth Holmes book where she kind of adopted Steve Jobs.
She wore the white, yeah.
And so I'm like, I want to do that.
You need a uniform.
I have that same, but I have to have some.
You might want
They
to.
have a style.
You might want to just play with it and look at yourself in the mirror, and then if you feel good, I mean, like you feel confident, you're comfortable, you feel good, go with it,
Yeah.
and just add to that style.
I-
Like, I think the people that know me, I have a style, right? I've got an animal sweater all the time and a jacket all the time. I worried about 10 years ago. I'm like, I like this, so I'll buy anything that has animal. But but just make sure that you're comfortable and you feel good,
You
and
were-
then you grow from there.
You were talking about,
Look like 25 and,
You.
We all do. We all do.
okay.
We all
Well,
do, right?
in addition to leisure wear, what's really taken off are tennis shoes or
Yes.
casual shoes. And you're saying you're
thank
climbing
goodness.
up on ladders. You could just, but there are some fun shoes out there that would
Yeah.
probably create a conversation, and you could become known as a designer, and you can be dressed up or dressed down anymore with tennis shoes, right?
Sneaker
Okay.
lady.
Or you could be the sneaker lady, and you climbing up on ladders. Doesn't it make sense? You could do something like that. It would be fun. It would be something that would start a conversation. You don't have to stick with one shoe. You could have pink ones, and you could have leopard print ones, and they're all out there, and it could be a fun thing to do.
You can get yourself a 25-year-old friend, because they will tell you. I have a niece that tells me, this got to go, and you got to buy this. But that's important.
And your unique style just creates just who you are. That's a part of your story. Tabitha Brown literally has her own
Yeah.
style. She's a major influencer and sells out at Target literally every time something drops. So, and it's because of her style, and it's, funky colors and trends and boldness. And so I think people just gravitate towards your uniqueness, and they'll just buy into it because it's simply who you are.
When I was in banking, I used to go to meetings, and I was in senior management, and I would wear a red suit. I had to wear a suit because I was a banker, but then I'd walk in and I was the only female, and there'd be all these men there in black suits, and I would say, aren't they just boring? I mean, but they can't wear a red suit. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Helen.
Oh, hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
At the White House press conference.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. That's right. When I was working in an advertising agency, we had to pitch for an account. You know what I wore? The colors of their logo.
I
Always,
used to do that.
always. Because it's immediately, they get it
They
immediately.
love it.
Mhm. Anything else? So you know what you got to do after we get up, right? Your assignment from Mimi? 3, right? 3 business cards.